Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's well and truly afternoon now. I was also supposed to, actually I was always going to speak in the afternoon. And it's been very interesting to be able to listen to some of the speakers earlier on today, covering such wonderful topics with respect to the Northern Cape. I love the Northern Cape. And when I heard about canoeing on the Orange being the best thing in the world, I took my brother from the UK on that canoeing trip down the Orange and he said the same things. It really was amazing. So yeah, love the Northern Cape. And I love to hear these stories of resilience and new ways of doing things and new ways of using digital. So now you've got me, after all listening to all that exciting stuff, talking about industry protocols, which really aren't that exciting, but let's go through them anyhow. So I think obviously, if you wanted to know the detail of the protocols, that would require training and going through a lot more detail than I will give you today. I'm going to give you more of a high-level overview and some thoughts and comments on utilizing the protocols and complying with the protocols. First of all, just to recap, these were developed in two phases, very, very quickly in April last year, literally over about 5 or 6 days, but getting a lot of information from the World Health Organization and all sorts of different other sources. SATS ran a series of short webinars where they asked people, or they went out and asked people, what can they do to operate safely in COVID? And we pulled something together that was reviewed by an epidemiologist and was said to be pretty comprehensive. And then we said, great, but I think we just need to make it a bit better. So we ran a second phase where we actually had 13 industry subgroups: small accommodation, large accommodation, car hire, tour operators, activities and attractions, adventure. Eventually we had caravan and camping coming in. We had the tour guides involved, and National Federation of Tour Guides Associations. So, Hanley from SATSA was involved, FedHasa was very involved, but those people who were close to it, the small committee, FedHasa, SATSA, and myself, we know that beating together or pulling together, panel beating together, everything that came in from all of those people in those 13 subgroups was a wonderful process, but it was not without its, let's call it disagreements, debates, strong debates on different aspects of what would go in the protocols. But I think what we got finally in early June was a very, very comprehensive document, which has only had good reviews from everybody who's looked at it, who's seen it globally. The World Travel and Tourism Council did approve of it as well, which is on my next slide. And we made them a guide for the entire tourism value chain. We didn't keep it just hotels or just tour operators, because we felt it needed to be a tourism industry document. And we did it because we knew 2 or 3 stakeholder groups needed to know about this. We needed to keep guests and staff safe, else we wouldn't be able to open again. Remember that time we were basically closed down when we developed these, but we needed to also tell government that we could open safely. And if I tell you, I think this in no small way contributed to government opening up the industry faster than they originally envisaged in that risk-adjusted strategy when it was first put out, was because we demonstrated that we had the COVID protocols, they were comprehensive, and then we started to utilize them. And the more tourism was opened up, the more we utilized them. And we did it because we all know we wanted tourism to survive, and we wanted the industry to carry on being an important part of the economy in South Africa. Then we launched in early August the Travel Safe, Eat Safe program, which I'll talk to you about now, which brought in apps and training and other things to support the protocols. This is the decal, or the badge that you get if you sign on that you will comply with the TBCSA protocols. And you can see it's also got the World Travel and Tourism Council's Safe Travels badge. They accredited our protocols very early on. And we were able to now attach their badge to our badge and give you both badges if you complied with our protocols. Just to go through what's in the protocols. The principles are really simple. So one thing I would say to everybody, the scary thing I say, but this is why you have to do the protocols, you've got to think that every single customer or guest or staff member, and yourself included, might be COVID positive. And so you have to assume that perhaps they are. And so we do all of this so that if they are, we don't spread the disease to other people. We have to collect passenger and visitor and customer information so that we can do contact tracing in the event of somebody falling positive with COVID or other people being in contact with a COVID positive person. We have to look at staff information, particularly whether staff have comorbidities, so they're more at risk, and we should roster those people differently away from customer-facing roles where there's less chance of them being contaminated. We need to reduce teams. We need to keep separate teams. So if you have teams and one person in a team gets COVID, then all your other teams have not overlapped with that team and they don't have to be laid off and go into quarantine or isolation. We obviously have to train our staff. We obviously have to use PPE for guests and staff. So I think sometimes getting the guests to keep their mask on when they need to keep their mask on is one of our little trials and tribulations. A few of us saw the video recently of a person being taken off, I think it was a Safir airplane, because he refused to put his mask on. All the people on the airplane were disadvantaged through the delay of having to bring the stairs back, etc., etc. But what I like about that example, and this is what I would like to impress on everybody, is there was a no tolerance attitude there from the airline. The person was refusing to wear their mask, and so they could not fly. And we need to think a little bit like that sometimes. And I know it's hard because in our industry, a guest is sort of the person you're trying to keep happy and satisfied. But we need to make sure that our premises are safe for our guests and our staff. That means every guest must comply with the protocols. But if I was to say on these principles, there are 4 things that are important. The PPE is important, and you need to look at where your staff need additional PPE, visors, or even gloves or shoe coverings. It's all recommended or stated in the protocols. But the 3 most important things are sanitizing your surfaces regularly. Any surface that gets touched, the degree that it gets touched, the more often you have to sanitize it. The sanitizing of hands, staff hands, guest hands, and physical distancing. And with physical distancing, add ventilation, because if you are indoors, ventilation plays a huge role in reducing spread. And rather just put everybody outdoors. We have the climate, we have the spaces. If you can, move things to more al fresco outdoor settings wherever possible, because outdoors, it's really difficult. The virus does not spread very much. And then, of course, in the end, we have to cover what you need to do if a staff member or a guest has a symptom or actually tests positive for COVID. But having said all of that, it's really simple. I think you're probably practicing it yourself in your day-to-day life when you go out to the shops or whatever. So to do it in our industry is not hard. And if we remember, wear masks, sanitizing of surfaces, sanitizing of hands, and the physical distancing rule. And I think the Western Cape actually had a 3 C's, and I can't remember what they were, but you can reduce it to very simple principles and just apply them all the time, and it's not too difficult. We made it the entire value chain, and I'm sure people on today's session come from all of these different aspects of the industry. You might need lots of these. If you're a big resort hotel, you've probably got meeting rooms, you might have a spa, you might have a casino, you might have adventure activities, you'll have restaurants, you'll have kitchens, and you might have a couple of transfer vehicles. So you could have everything in one property, or you might only have one of these in your property, or in your business, if you like. But we made sure that you can find the sections that cover what it is that you do. So if you have vehicles, you need to read the vehicles section. If you have open vehicles, there's specifics about open vehicles. And in the protocols, there's quite a lot of what is recommended and a try, preferential. It's not all must, but where it is must, then that has to be done. As in, we've got the statements that are required as per the regulations, and those you have to adhere to. The capacities, we've left some of the capacities out now for meetings because they keep going up and down. They just went up again last night, the group sizes for gatherings. But otherwise, most things in there have stayed the same for quite a long time. The vehicle capacity utilization has stayed the same. This is one that sometimes brings up quite a discussion, because we all know that taxis on short distances, which is less than 200 kilometers, can be 100% full. But I think we all know that in South Africa, everybody thought, well, that doesn't sound very logical. And perhaps that wasn't one of the more rational regulations we had. And as a tourism industry, we've opted for a guideline of 70% capacity. But with everything we've said, there's always flexibility between connected groups of individuals. So couples or families can all sit together. And the real thing is one spare seat between any between people who are not connected. So it's a logical approach. And we really do believe, though, that for our tourists, and as we get more international tourists, which they tried to come back and then we've sent them away again if inadvertently, they will want the comfort of knowing that you're practicing this type of capacity constraints. And in fact, some international law is going to require that we adhere to capacity constraints that the international countries say are required for their nationals. So we might even have to adjust those. But we don't think 100% capacity in vehicles is right for our clients, and it's not right for getting confidence in our industry. Obviously, the protocols align with the World Health Organization and all the Department of Health and guidelines and all the regulations and directions that have come out of national government. Believe me, they came from all over the place. SPAS sits under the Department of Small Enterprises, regulations for SPAs. Sporting activities and a lot of adventure activities are under Department of Sports, some are under Environment Affairs. It's all over the place, but we've made sure they're up to date and all the regulations are covered. And you know what, in our industry, we already did largely identify and track our clients. In fact, the adventure guiding industry said, well, you know, we do questionnaires of everybody already. There's no difference for us. It's easy. We just have to take a temperature. That's the only thing we have to do extra. And of course, the sanitizing, yes, but not the identifying and tracking clients. And in our industry, those of us who operate kitchens in particular, we know we've adapted and adhered to hygiene and safety requirements. So this isn't new for us. And the reason we sometimes stress this is this was selling back to government that we can do this well and easily, so you can open us up. And at the same time, it's selling it to our customers. It's saying to our clients, whether they be international or local, you can have confidence in the tourism industry because we understand these types of things. We've been doing it before, and we're now doing it specifically for COVID. Then just briefly, as well as the protocols document, which I've sort of been talking to, we now have a website, we have an application, and we have some free training. So the suite of what's available for the industry protocols. This is the website, www.travelsafeeatsafe.co.za. So it's an information hub. It's where you go on to register to download the app. It links to the training website. There's a guest complaint form here. And then if you download the app and commit to the protocols on the app, there's a questionnaire that you have to commit to. And then we take it as effectively as a signature on a type of contract. You have committed to following the protocols. You get this to put on your collateral, the Travel Safe, Eat Safe badge. You can put it on your own website, and you also get a listing, a free online listing for the establishments and operators. This is the app. It allows you to download it for these categories of businesses and operations in the industry. There are 2 levels. The free platform gives you up-to-date protocols and the pledge and the certification. The pay level, which I think is 95 Rand a month, so we've tried to keep it affordable, gives you the ability to screen using multiple users having the app in your property for guests, staff, and suppliers to track COVID-19 track and trace functionality. If you ever have somebody who tested positive, you can see between your guests and suppliers that you've tracked, who they came into contact with, and also staff PPE and cleaning registers. So these are very useful tools for 95 Rand a month on the app to help you run your business. I'll be honest, this is probably for slightly larger businesses and not smaller businesses, but I would encourage, and we hope you all have done already, that you log on the app and go through these first 2 free elements of the app for any business, for everybody, even an independent tour guide, just to say that you're going to keep up to date with the protocols and that you're adhering to them. We then have the online training. Here is the the website for the training, which was developed by Journey. And it's free and it's online. It's in 5 subsectors: accommodation, meals, dining, attractions, and activities. And earlier today, I was talking to the tour guides in Gauteng. And I was saying, if you're a tour guide, you may not have any of these, but you probably take people to attractions. You may well take people to restaurants on your tours. You may well do multi-day tours and take people to accommodation. And you may well go on tour operators' vehicles or have your own vehicle. So a tour guide, for instance, why not do all of those? You can do all of those categories of the training and get through all your modules and be certificated for all of them. Or if you are only a guest house, then you just do the guest house. So these are free training, and it's certainly worth doing. And we are looking at adding some other training to the training that's available, or other training channels that's being looked at the moment. So we have a complaints line, and the complaints line got quite busy in December. And we need this because, you know, the whole reason behind this is to keep guests and staff safe, convince government that we can operate. But behind all of that is give our guests confidence. And if our guests don't have confidence, and our international guests are asking for this, when the international trade tells us that when people come to them talking about booking a holiday to South Africa, they say, how is the tourism industry operators safe in South Africa? What do they do? Do they practice World Health Organization standards? And so confidence building through saying, yes, we do. We have comprehensive protocols is important, and adhering to them is important. So this is the type of things that people are complaining about. In December, we were busy with complaints that the symptom screening questions are not done. The staff are not wearing masks in public areas, that there's overcrowding and this adherence to strict numbers. It's the same thing, basically, that people are not 1.5 meters apart. There's open self-service buffet. So remember, most buffets, the guests would come along and use the tongs or the spoon and serve themselves, and then the next guest touches the same spoon. This is not a good idea in the COVID times. So you have to have staff behind perspex screens, which I've seen beautifully done in a couple of hotels I've stayed in, serving the buffet to the guests. So the guest collects their own plate and then they are served. Not enough sanitation installations in public areas. Guests feel happy if they can keep cleaning their own hands. So I think we've got to make sure that there's enough in public areas. So some thoughts. I've been lucky enough to stay in 4 or 5 hotels. I've dined at numerous restaurants. I've flown on a couple of airlines. And I've largely seen the protocols being very, very well adhered to. But I've seen people do innovative things. And I'll just give you 2 examples of what I thought was quite innovative to make it easier for guests. Because ultimately, we don't want to spoil the guest experience. You've got to try and do this as a sort of a seamless thing that happens without interrupting the guest experience as far as possible. So in one of my local restaurants, instead of you sort of queuing at the door to have your temperature taken and filling in the list at the door, they actually take you to your table. At the table, they take your temperature. The waitress has or waiter or waitress has a thermometer, and they leave a little slip at the table where you complete at your leisure at the table while they're perhaps going and getting your first drinks, all your names, your contact details, and you put the temperature on there that she recorded when she arrived with you. She also cleans the table as she sits down with you. So they've taken the queue away from the door, and I think they've done it in quite a nice way. I was on a multi-day conference at a hotel, and I was staying in the hotel. So when I went to breakfast on my second day, they screened me and they gave me a little blue sticker on my lapel. I think it was a blue sticker. So on that day, all guests had been shown to have been temperature tested again by the fact that they had a blue sticker on their lapel. So that was a great system. The next day it's a green sticker, the next day it's a red sticker, so that they can just check because perhaps you didn't get screened. But of course, the second day I was there, unfortunately, they missed me because I didn't go for breakfast and I wandered around the conference area without a sticker all day and nobody took my temperature. So the system was good, but it didn't quite work. But you can, and I can't think of all of what I call the little hacks, but if you perhaps ask your staff and just talk to your guests, people have ideas to make this simpler and more, less intrusive for guests and less of a burden on yourselves and your staff as well. So I think that everybody can start looking at clever ways to do all of this better. And then I think I've been saying this all the way through, the importance of compliance. We need our customers to have confidence to travel again. And believe me, well, we're seeing quite a lot of people traveling domestically for leisure purposes. We know a lot of companies are still having a non-travel policy because they don't want to put their workers at risk. And we know that there's still a whole lot of South Africans sitting at home who are scared to go out. They're scared to go out to restaurants and they're scared to travel. The more we can go through stories of people traveling and not having any issues with our protocols, but feeling safe because the protocols are in place and being adhered to, the more they will go home and tell their friends and say, you know what, you can go on an airplane. I did the same. I told one friend of mine who'd been invited to a wedding in the Cape. She didn't want to go. She said, oh, I can't go on an airplane. I said, it's fine. I've done it. And I was able with confidence to tell her that it was something she can do. So that's what this is about. It's about a little groundswell of confidence building from people who experience the protocols, unobtrusively, but comprehensively, so that everybody is aware that we follow the safety measures. And as the next bullet point says, we can be a preferred travel destination, most importantly for bringing back foreign tourists. I know we have a different challenge with foreign tourists, which is the unfortunate narrative that's gone out about a so-called South African variant, unfairly labeled South African variant, which means at the moment it's not our rules and regulations keeping people out, it's everybody else's rules and regulations not letting them come here, or making it so onerous on their return that they don't want to come here. But nevertheless, it will come back. So we need to be ready to give the international market confidence as well. And the more stories we have of the domestic market feeling safe in our establishments and in our properties and on our vehicles, the better it will be for the international tourists. And all of this is because we want our businesses to survive. We want our employees to still have jobs. We want to all still earn a living. And we want the industry to come back and at some point get back to where it was before. And my dog's now agreeing. And people who've been on calls with me know I have dogs who contribute from time to time. So I think that's sort of the end of my presentation. It's this is Tumi's contact details at TBCSA. She's the lady there who's in charge of, at the bottom here, you've got the complaints email address. So if you don't actually do your complaint via the app or the website, you can just send it here or ask clients. And maybe if you're running an establishment, you want to actually ask them to send in compliments as opposed to complaints. I haven't thought about that, but we could actually start collecting compliments. Would be quite a good idea in terms of sharing our guests saying it was great. I felt safe. The protocols were done, but they were done in an unobtrusive way, and we enjoyed our experience. So Tumi is the lady to contact. I don't mind sharing my own contact details. I'll put them on the chat afterwards for anybody who wants to also speak to me about it. And I just want to wish everybody the best of success in applying these protocols. Please download the app and register and take the pledge if you haven't done so already. And just to recognize how vitally important these are to make sure that we can keep operating safely as a tourism industry and keep welcoming clients and tourists and guests who are confident to stay in our facilities and travel on our vehicles and enjoy our experiences. Thank you very much.